Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Jeremy Melting, who is the managing partner of On Deck Recruiting. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today.
John, thanks for having me.
Yeah, would you like to just kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and then the business that you're in?
Hey, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to share my story. My name is Jeremy Melting. My experience includes serving as a VP of operations for a service and retail chain, enterprise account manager for technology MSPs, was a VP of sales for an IT startup, and an area manager in staffing. I've had an opportunity to successfully start and scale new lines of business from 0 to 10 million, and I've had P&L responsibilities of 23 million. I founded On Deck Recruiting. It's an executive search firm dedicated to helping small to medium-sized businesses find top-tier professionals, and my focus areas are healthcare, technology, and finance.
Uh, What was the initial spark that led you to start your own business in this area?
This is a great question for me. I grew up surrounded by family-owned and operated businesses, kind of knowing at some point I would always want to do it myself. Along the way, I've had a few failed ventures, and really the catalyst for me to launch On Deck Recruiting was the passing of my uncle.
Hmm.
He was a tremendous influence in my life, and he unexpectedly died. It reminded me of other losses I've had in my life and some missed opportunities. So, shortly after his birthday in October of 2017, I made the decision to act and I registered my LLC.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your uncle. Obviously, he was quite an influence on you.
Yes.
So, talk to us a little bit about the first couple years and starting up the business. What were some of the things that you needed to do? What were some of the things that you learned that you were maybe unaware of? Because this is a unique business for us on this show. I've only had people who did recruiting for financial advisors. So, help
Okay.
us understand that process.
Having worked in the recruiting staffing industry for a little over 15 years prior to me starting my company, I'm fortunate to have made a lot of great relationships, both with customers and as well with coworkers. So for me, what I leveraged and what I would suggest anybody else consider is go to the people that you know that are doing this today, that are good at it, that love doing it, and find out from them what they think would be a great approach for you to use to basically augment or underscore what your own ideas are. So I leaned on a couple of people that I have high respect for and really sort of planned out how I was going to do this. And one of the biggest things I learned along the way that I always tell people when I get a similar question asked is if you're going to start going out to be your own employee or eventually start your own business, and especially if you've been in an account management or sales role, I think it's really the probably the best litmus test is you should call some of your best customers and just tell them what you're thinking about and ask them, if I were to do this, would I be able to have an opportunity to run your business directly? And I actually did that with some of my favorite accounts over the years, just to make sure that it was something where, even though I wanted to do this, that the service I had done for them in the past was of a quality that I could have that opportunity to work with them again.
Well, that's good. So, what was your work-life balance like when you first got this business going? And then how has that changed?
You know, work-life balance is definitely something, I think when you come into starting your own business, you have to remind yourself to sort of treat it like you would as if you were an employee of another company. So for me, I work really hard. I'm always still getting better at this, but to really use good time management and to block out time, just like you would if you're working for another employer, so that when family or friends have an event or something that you're going to be a part of, you can give yourself permission to walk away from the company, to walk away from the business for whatever it is you have in front of you, and to be as present as you can with that.
You mentioned time management. Are there any techniques that you use to kind of help with that time management? You mentioned just kind of block out the things that are important, but are there any other techniques that you're using with respect to managing your time?
I'm a big user of a calendar. Many years ago, I went through the Franklin Covey course, and I've just used those tactics and techniques my whole career. So, sort of a redundant answer to the question, but block the time out in your calendar, schedule time for key activities so that you're making sure that every day and every week that you're moving towards succeeding or achieving your goals. I find if you leave it open, because you're going to have more time available to you when you start a company than you did when you're an employer, and you really need to be as strategic as you can. So pick the things that are going to be outcomes of revenue, something that's going to lead to another customer or to being able to invoice so that you have a revenue stream coming in, and try and use that as maybe your anchor whenever you're looking at what you're putting on your calendar.
That's really good. I'm going to shift a little bit here. And so in your industry, what are some of the things you're doing to remain innovative in your space?
Yeah, this one, I think for me, it's always reminding myself of the basics. And probably the best thing for that is attend industry webinars, events, read trade publications, collaborate with my past coworkers, other business owners, and definitely I try and ask my clients and the candidates that I work with for feedback.
Mm,
Um, to remain innovative, whenever I've considered implementing a new process or an idea, I pitch it to my most trusted business contacts. And what this does is it helps me realize if it's ready or if I need to put some more work into it. That's a ongoing tactic that I've utilized that I think has helped me be successful in the lane I'm in.
that's good. So you mentioned gathering feedback from your clients and then the folks that you end up placing and stuff like that. Do you have a type of mechanism that you use for that? Is it
Yeah, so with technology, it's always easy to automate something and to use email or text or a form. And although that has its place, you're going to get the best insight if you pick up the phone or take somebody out for a cup of coffee or a lunch. So you really just want to ask them directly, how did I do? What could I have done better? What would you like to see me do different next time? In addition to that, I'll certainly send out a survey through an email or just a direct email asking for some sort of feedback on the process. I provide what I call a placement report, which captures all of the key data points that were involved with the process so that they can look at that, compare it to maybe the next time I work with them, or if they happen to be working with other competing companies or even their internal HR department, because I think the data helps everybody get better at this. And whether I'm working on the position today or it's another competing agency, I'm trying to help the client be better. And by sharing that data, then they tend to give me insight on how I did. Other tools that I'll use, of course, is just um, uh, excuse me, there's the opportunity to read over any type of review you've been given. Sorry about that. So if I get a review from a customer, they usually tend to be on Clutch. Then that's an opportunity for me to also learn, and as well as the candidates, they tend to review us on Google, and that's a great opportunity to either reinforce what was working or to look at something that maybe we could have done better.
okay? Good. I'm going to ask you my magic wand question. So kind of humor me on this one. And the question is, if you could wave a magic wand, right, and change one thing about your business, what would that be?
In today's market, especially where things have transpired since COVID, there is a lot of candidates looking for work. There was, if you read up on these things, there's been the reorg, there's been the great resignation, a lot of different themes or trends. And ultimately, there's just a lot more information. So the job seeker has become much more informed and savvy. So my magic wand would be to try and create a better communication system between the employers and the candidates. There's a lot of frustration out there for whoever you are, regardless if you've been very successful in your career or you're just starting out in your career. When you don't get feedback, when you don't find out why you did or didn't progress to the next round in the interview or get an offer, it leaves you unfulfilled and you don't know how to adjust from that. So if there was a better communication process where we could connect those two, and recruiters try and do that, I do the best I can at that, but there's a missing piece there. And this is kind of a long answer to your question, but I feel like that the technology outpaced um, and made that void larger than it needed to be. And we need to get back a little bit to those basics where we're just having direct communication and telling people where things are falling short or what we can do different.
That's great. Now that's insightful. So I appreciate you taking the time to share that. Would you maybe offer us a glimpse into the future plans and goals that you have for your business?
Yeah, on that note, like I said, candidates today have a higher expectation than ever before, and the experience we provide is crucial in earning their trust and willingness to work with us. So for me, I'm narrowing the focus of the functional roles we recruit for to build a deeper relationship with those candidates and deliver stronger matches for my clients' job openings. Um, to do that, I need to, again, really kind of hone in on the types of projects that I take on, and that way I can build a deeper, in-depth customer database, or excuse me, candidate database that allows me to be more responsive to my customers. Um, the other thing I'm doing is I'm working on an app. It's designed to systematically guide users through their job search journey. It's a comprehensive platform that helps you plan, manage, and succeed in your career search.
That sounds interesting. Tell us maybe just tell us a little bit more about the app and kind of, you mentioned it's going to guide users through this, but what are some of the things it's going to help those users with?
So in the line of work I'm in, you end up talking to, um, let's just say you might reach out to 100 different unique individuals that on first impression are qualified for a position. And from there, you're narrowing down or coming to 25% of those are either going to find out a certain detail of the position and not be interested. You might ascertain that some of them are not qualified. So then from 100, you have 75 left. From there, what you're going to do then is try and figure out which of the best of those are going to fit what the client's looking for. You might end up with 10. From those 10, your customer might interview five. From there, if they make an offer to one of them, that 20% hire to interview ratio is considered a good metric in the industry. So coming back to your question, you have all of those candidates are being touched by multiple recruiters all the time. They're also applying to multiple jobs. It's quite overwhelming. And so what the app will do is aggregate all of this information so you're not having to log into half a dozen or more different places. It will pull in the historical process that you went through. So I applied here, I didn't hear back. I applied here, had an interview, didn't get an offer. It'll help integrate into your calendar. There will be best practices that prompt you along the way. So if you're going in for your second round interview, what should be some different prep than you did the first interview? If you finish the interview cycle, what should you do while you're waiting to follow up and nurture the customer without checking in too frequently? So those best practices will be prompting you from the beginning to the end. And then hopefully we'll be able to have some additional plugins that are going to provide insights. So when you do get to the offer stage, you'll be able to compare that to things that are within the field you're in to know that is this a competitive offer? Do I need to do something to counter offer? All of the details, we want to have something that can provide you either insight or to condense and manage this from one application.
That sounds like it'll be really helpful for people. So that's a good tool. So thank you.
That's the goal.
Thank you. So knowing that this show, right, is really going to be targeted towards people that are going to be in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Absolutely. Focus on activity that has a revenue outcome. Again, I said that earlier, a process that has a revenue outcome. You need to be cautious to not spend too much time doing everything yourself. It's smart to be frugal and do what you can, but not at the expense of sales or account management. It's much better to have a steady growing cash flow so you can hire others to do what you're not an expert at.
That's really good. So that's great advice. Thank you so much for your time today, Jeremy.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate getting to share my story.
Yeah, no, it was great meeting you and learning more about your journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.